and welcome to the Gavel. I'm Linda Akibe. An interactive meeting between the National Assembly Joint Committee on Labour and the Minister of State Labour, Mr. Festus Keyamo, during the week ended on a sour note as both sides engaged in a shooting match, and thereafter the legislators walked Mr. Keyamo out of the meeting room. The cause of the conflict is the procedure for the recruitment of 774,000 persons under the Special Public Works Programme. All this culminated in the National Assembly directing that the Public Works Programme be put on hold until the modalities for executing it are explained to the legislature.
It was an interactive session between members of the Senate and House of Representatives Joint Committee on Labour and the Minister of State for Labour, as well as the National Directorate of Employment. The National Assembly committees convened this meeting to discuss the Special Public Works Programme, which is intended to create jobs for 774,000 persons across 774 local government areas in the country. The National Directorate of Employment is expected to implement this program. But the meeting hit stormy waters, where the committee sought to know the modalities for choosing members of the selection committees for the project. Lawmakers were concerned by the revelation that 8 ministries were also involved in the program.
If Mr. President wants 8 ministries to handle this, we will have divided it 1 billion or 500 million to all the ministries. Then all the 8 committees, both in the Senate and in the House, will be responsible for supervising you, because the main aim of all is to check you for checks and balances. But today, when you look at the budget, this money is directly to NDE account. And I'm happy the accounting officer of the National Director of Employment is here. Am I right? The money is directly to NDE. We are coming here to tell lawmakers there is 8 ministries, 7 ministries.
Let him finish, please. We are allowed to do.
I want to disagree with you completely.
You need to understand very well that we are not saying that 8 ministries are supervising this project. That is why I'm shocked. We are not saying 8 ministries are supervising this project. We said by the direction of Mr. President, in order to plan for it, 8 ministries came together and brought recommendations which I accepted. It was a very clear statement. There's no controversy about aid or supervision. We are in clear charge of supervision. I only said I just reported what happened. There's no controversy over it.
Tensions began to rise as lawmakers accused Mr. Keyamo of hijacking the program from the NDE and alleging lopsidedness of the entire program.
What are your key performance indicators? How do you know that this program will succeed? What are you expecting to achieve? You haven't told us about any achievement. What you told us is you selected people with indigenous leaders, ASU, everybody. So how do you open your key performance indicators? How are you going to measure the success of this program? Because you never said anything about it. And you are the one executing and doing everything. How do you now know that that money is going to be utilized properly?
The drama intensifies when the committee calls for the meeting to continue behind closed doors, but the minister refuses, which further infuriates the lawmakers.
So please, I want to request that we should have
I please respectfully, and I say this respectfully, say this, that I want the cameras to be here. It's a matter of public interest. You cannot make accusations and allow the cameras to go out. I want the cameras to be here for me, but I will not talk. I will not speak. I will not speak. The cameras will not be here. So the second session is not bound by public hearing. Anytime I'm here, it's just a public hearing. If it's a private hearing, I will not speak.
Chairman, you can't guide our proceedings here. You are not supposed to guide our proceedings here.
I want to move. I don't know who start apologize to this city. He has been most apologized by directing us, and that apology to do it will know the appropriate preventive measures. Because said by I want Nigerian people. You know, we are representing Nigerian people. We are not hiding anything. So you need to apologize because we here appointed. Without our approval, Mr. President can nominate you. If any say no, you can be nominated 100 and you are a lawyer, you should know what the procedure is.
The Constitution talks about public hearing. So what I'm saying, what am I apologizing for? What am I apologizing for? You said that you apologize for saying that we should go and hear for the Nigerian people, for insisting that we should do the hearing for the Nigerian people. When I insisted, I did not insult anybody. I did not insult anybody. I insisted we were doing it for the Nigerian people.
Failing to apologize, the lawmakers asked Mr. Keyamo to leave.
I am here to answer it. I'm here to answer it. I'm here to answer it. Am I intimidated? Am I done today? Am I done today?
Speaking to journalists outside the meeting room, Mr. Keyamo accuses the committee of trying to take control of the recruitment exercise.
The chairman insisted I must come to them privately for them to hand over to me certain instructions as to how this program will be done across the country. I said no. That will be sharing the powers of the president. I can only be answerable for what I have done by virtue of the provisions of the Constitution. But you cannot direct me. What they are getting wrong there, they are quoting Section 88. We have litigated Section 88 over and over. What they are getting wrong there is that I am questioning their powers to investigate. I am not. I fully concede to the powers of the National Assembly to investigate for the purpose of exposing corruption. And that is the point I made, that they said I must apologize, that we cannot allow the cameras go out. I'm answering to the Nigerian people. They are also answerable to the Nigerian people. I do not see the need of an executive session in a matter like this, involving 704,000 Nigerians.
But the lawmakers deny this allegation.
No time in anywhere that the minister said is given 15% to the National Assembly or to my committee or Labour or National Assembly. No any time he said I should bring 15%, no point in time. I don't know whether he discussed with anybody, but not the committee.
A day after the face-off between the National Assembly and the Minister of State for Labour, the National Assembly came out with a statement saying the implementation of the Special Public Works Program should be put on hold until the modalities for executing the program are explained to the federal legislature. In a joint statement from the Senate and House of Representatives, the National Assembly mandated its committees on labor to immediately invite the Minister of Labor and other relevant officials of the ministry to brief members on the modalities for the implementation of the Public Works Program. The Senate spokesman, Ajibola Bashiru, who briefed journalists, said the legislature was involved in the conceptualization of the Public Works Program.
If the president sees that our power is being encroached, they can approach the court of law. What we are saying is this project, the way you are looking at it is as if it's an exclusively presidential project. From the paragraph 2 of our statement, you will see that the conception of the program, its approval, and its funding is with the consent of the National Assembly, because we think it's going to be beneficial for the purpose of addressing challenges of COVID-19. So your perspective of saying encroaching on the power of the president, there is no exclusivity in terms of any program that is to be implemented, unless you are saying National Assembly is not part of government.
The Senate and House of Representatives committees on public account came hard on two government agencies during the week. In the Senate, it was the Nigerian Law School which received several queries from the Auditor General's 2015 report over violations of financial regulations. In the case of the House of Representatives Committee, the searchlight was on the homegrown school feeding program, which lawmakers had several issues with. The House of Reps Committee on Public Accounts met with the Statistician General of the Federation and the Special Assistant to President Buhari on the homegrown school feeding program. The meeting was to examine the homegrown school feeding program, which is an initiative of government intended on improving the health and educational outcomes of public primary school pupils. Following the presentation of the Statistician General, the Speaker is worried that private schools may have been included in the school feeding program, which is supposed to be strictly for public schools.
I'm not particularly aware of the details of the program, no.
No, these are not details. This is the basic, it's
I'm not aware
public
of,
or private is not a detail.
I'm not aware of that information, whether it relates to public or private schools.
But you are supposed to be. Because you work for federal government and you're a statistician, you're supposed to know that this particular law is not for private school, or this particular program is not for private school, correct?
I'm not aware, and I'm not.
I know you're not aware, but are you supposed to be aware? That's
I'm not sure I'm supposed to be aware about the details of a private program.
You're telling the world that you don't know whether the school feeding program is applicable to public schools or to private schools. You are not aware.
I'm not aware of whether it applies to private or public schools.
The special assistant to the president on the school feeding program says the process of selecting the schools begins with the list submitted by the state government.
First of all, the program is actually targeting public primary schools. The validation was done based on data provided by the states. So we gave that data to NBS to do a validation on. We agreed on certain terms which included head counts, details on register, name of school and where those schools are located, and also to provide the head teachers' names and numbers of those schools. Well, we've explained our program in different ways. I won't want to say that we specifically had said public primary schools at the time of the engagement, but the list provided was actually the list given by the states for them to validate.
So as it is now, I can have an interest in this. I can be part of the state government and have an interest, or my relative has an interest in a private school, and that can slip through the cracks, and they can go and validate and come back to you and say it's validated, even though it's a wholly 100% private school.
It's expected that all the schools provided by the states are public primary schools, which is what is communicated to the states.
It's expected.
Which is also what is in the Memorandum of Understanding.
But you don't know if the states have complied.
We follow through with that, but we hold them through the Memorandum of Understanding, which even includes that where they provide invalid data, they will be responsible to the point of even refunding, especially if it goes beyond a 15% threshold.
Lawmakers are also worried that schools in their constituencies have not benefited from the program, despite claims by the federal government, and they want the breakdown of every school and how monitoring is done. Meanwhile, the Senate Public Accounts Committee held a meeting with the Nigerian Law School to examine queries raised by the Auditor General of the Federation in its 2015 report. The Auditor General's report questions the Nigerian Law School over the payment of 32 million naira to an unnamed cleaner over a period of 12 months outside budgetary provisions.
I think the correct position is that each of the vouchers there should be the first name and orders, and at no point in time was the money paid to an individual. The mandate contains the names of all the recipients with the account details.
No provision was made in overhead. No provision was made in personnel. No provision was made in capital. So you're entirely generated revenue. That's what it's saying there. That's where you raise the money from. Because it was not appropriated or not visible in the budget for that year for you.
The report also queried the payment of another 36 million naira as dressing allowance through the account of one of the staff for 52 others also outside budgetary provisions.
The management of the school will not substantiate these payments with any approval from Salaries and Wages Commission to enable the audit team to determine the genuineness of these payments to staff.
I can't imagine law school paying 34 million in someone's account on behalf of others. It can never happen.
The management of the Nigerian Law School is asked to bring supporting documents to show they spent within budget, but the Senate sustains the queries raised in the Auditor General's report. The report also discloses that the Nigerian Law School at various times used pension funds to offset other expenses not related to payment of pensions.
Seat of the chairman to Nigerian Law School, you use pension funds. 401,200. Not relate. Why will you use pension to when the chairman visits or the other one?
To entertain a BOT member.
The defense of the Director General of the Nigerian Law School was not strong enough for the Senate panel to vacate the query. The management of the law school is asked to provide supporting documents to show they adhered to financial regulations, failing which the pension funds under contention will be returned into the institution's pension accounts. You're welcome back to the Gavel. In a matter of days, specifically on July 8th, Nigeria will commence the operation of domestic flights in the country, which was suspended for more than 3 months because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Senate Committee on Aviation met with the Minister of Aviation and other government officials in the sector to discuss safety measures being put in place to protect air passengers ahead of the resumption of domestic flights. Ahead of the commencement of domestic flights in Nigeria after more than 3 months of suspension because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the federal government is assuring air passengers of safety when flights resume.
Carrying out these activities,
the Minister of Aviation and heads of government agencies in the sector appeared before the Senate Committee on Aviation to brief lawmakers on measures put in place to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in the airport and in flight when operations begin.
I wonder how we intend to cope with that with the passengers that will be boarding the flights. Is it possible to still maintain 2 meters in the aircraft? If that will not happen, will it then be compulsory that passengers must put on the mask when they board the flight? That's the first thing I want to put in place. The first question I want to ask you. The other question I want to ask Mr. Honorable Minister is that the airport, I'm aware that some weeks back there was fumigation of, I think about 5 of the major airports. I don't know how you intend to continue with this exercise. Is it going to be a temporary approach, or you intend to have a permanent program in place towards ensuring that the airports are regularly, if not daily, fumigated?
A case where physical distancing is not feasible, such as the cabin of an aircraft, other mitigating measures will be put in place. The Honorable Minister highlighted a lot of this, like regular cleaning of aircraft common use facilities. Anytime the aircraft lands, the passengers get off, the aircraft must be cleaned with the proper reagents. And also during the flights, in fact, if you get to the airport, if you don't have a face mask, to start with, you are not even going to be allowed into the terminal. That is one of the mitigating measures we've done. And the airport processes is done in such a way as a filtering process to eliminate those who should not be allowed to be on board the aircraft, people with symptoms. There are issues of security, there are issues of safety. So the airport processes are designed in such a way to filter all these people out.
We have circulated this, and Mr. President has approved. All those who have no business in traveling will certainly have business to remain within the zones that we allocate. They will not enter our airports, not at all. The only person that can carry whoever he wants into the airport is Mr. President. Luckily, he doesn't fly from my airport. He flies from his own. So he's on his own. So anybody coming into the airport this time around, whether he is chief of this, chief of that, or he's minister this, minister that, or even our ogas, honorable members and distinguished senators, will not be carrying our aids into the airport any longer. Passenger processing. Yes, we have protocols in place that they will be processed faster than you think. And I think the longer or the older the COVID guy becomes, the easier he is to deal with. So now we are seeing these tests that are coming out that you could do them within hours. The PCR has been improved tremendously. So we hope as we open, the new system of doing things will improve and will process faster.
Let's take a look at some of the activities in the House of Representatives during the week. The House of Representatives is to investigate alleged secret accounts operated by the Nigeria Ports Authority, which it collects revenue from vessels. The House said it is aware that the management of the NPA has denied the allegation, which was raised by a whistleblower, but a comprehensive investigation will still be carried out. The resolution followed a motion of urgent public importance raised by Representative Kolawole Lawal.
The House is concerned that the material particulars of the allegations by a whistleblower have been contradicted by the NPA. But since public fund is involved in the matter, it's imperative that the House intervene in the crisis with a view to establishing the true situation in public interest. The House is concerned also that the Nigerian Port Authority, NPA, may be operating from other accounts in similar situations. The House wonders if NPA or any federal government MDA have authority to pay any amount of money, public money, to any judgment creditor in satisfaction of a judgment debt without obtaining the prior approval of the Attorney General of the Federation in view of the clear provisions of Section 84 of the Sheriffs and Civil Process Act, Cap 56, Law Federation of Nigeria, 2004.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has warned that it will sanction the National Broadcasting Commission if the price hike by the cable TV service provider, MultiChoice, is not reversed within 1 month. The House of Representatives Committee on the Implementation of Pay-As-You-Go tariff plan by the cable TV service providers gave the warning during the week in the National Assembly. He also condemned the monopolization of the market space and charged the Ministry of Information and the NBC to ensure that the market is open for better competition, which in turn will bring about better services to Nigerians.
This sector is one of the sectors of the Nigerian economy that has a lot of potentials and is capable of employing a lot of Nigerians. The potential is so vast. Why do you allow only one operator to dominate the system to a point that any new operator that comes on board will die the following day?
The committee is also asking cable TV service provider MultiChoice to reverse its hike in prices of subscription. The committee stated this during a meeting with the Minister of Information, whom they urged to direct the cable service provider to ensure reversal and revert to the old prices. MultiChoice had announced an increase in subscription, which commenced on the 1st of June. The increase, according to the company, is a reflection of a new tax regime of the federal government, which increased value-added tax from 5 to 7.5%.
The dominant operators, DSTV, and others are using their powers and financial strength to corner a chunk of the industry to the detriment of others. This is totally unacceptable and untenable. Our mandate in this committee is simple. Therefore, I would like to reiterate to the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture and all the stakeholders here present to ensure and commence full implementation of the following. 1, a marching order to the service providers, particularly MultiChoice DSTV, to reverse the recent June 1, 2020 price hike and revert to the old price, as this is not the best of times to increase the prices of services, no matter the reason for such increase, taking into consideration the ravaging effect of COVID-19 on the economy of Nigerians. 2, come up with a robust strategy to break the monopoly and open up the industry for larger participation. 3, pay-as-you-go tariff regime for digital TV broadcasting in Nigeria, with particular reference to DSTV, GoTV, StarTimes, and Questa TV.
The House of Representatives has set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the financial budgetary provisions, approvals, and multilateral donations on skill acquisition and related programs of the federal government and its agencies. This is sequel to a motion of urgent public importance raised by a federal lawmaker questioning the social investment program and skills acquisition program of the federal government.
Aware that the federal government and multilateral donors in this effort to get Nigerians engaged in meaningful economic ventures had committed so much funds for the approval and implementation of skills acquisition programs, self-reliant programs, and social investment safety nets in all states of the Federation through many of its agencies, including but not limited to Industrial Training Fund, Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency, and the Nigeria Directorate of Employment and Amnesty Department of the Presidency.
The lower chamber has passed for second reading a bill seeking to amend the Currency Conversion Freezing Orders Act to give discretionary powers to the judge of a federal high court to order forfeiture of assets of affected persons. The sponsor of the bill, Idris Wase, who is also the Deputy Speaker of the House, argues that the new bill will prevent an abuse of powers by the President.
In the past, what used to be, the President has executive power and by fiat to declare such actions. This, I would want to say, will be tantamount to allowing, if you have a President that is too much politically inclined to use his powers or to abuse an abuse of power. By the time we have this, that until you go through the judicial process before you can have anybody's asset taken over, I think it will give us more leverage and more encompassing democratic opportunities. Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, it is just a one-line amendment to remove the power from the President and allow the Constitution to come in.
Now, this is where we call it a day on this week's edition of The Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us and see you again next week.